Hello everyone. Welcome to IP Study video lectures. Today we will discuss grade 7 chapter Heat and Temperature. In this chapter we will cover topics heat, unit of heat, effects of heat, how heat is transferred and the temperature. So in grade 6 we already have discussed that some materials can be at higher temperature which we consider hot, and some materials can be at lower temperature which we consider as cold. So here we have a slight idea of hotness and coldness, which is also known as the temperature. Let's study this in detail. So you are already familiar with the meaning of hot and cold. In our daily life, we use these terms very often. What happens when you feel thirsty? You drink cold water. And when you feel cold, you drink hot drinks. So what we are doing in this process, we are trying to maintain the temperature. This happens in winters. We also sit near heater to maintain the temperature. We absorb heat from the heater, and that's how we try to keep the body temperature by raising it. What makes a thing or a place hot or cold? Why we say that something will be hotter, something will be colder, or how we make something hot or something cold. This happens because of differences in the temperature. When an object is at higher temperature, we say it is hot. When an object is at the lower temperature, it is called cold. A temperature is the unit by which we can compare how hot or cold an object is. Or we can say the temperature is the degree of measure of coldness and hotness. Now let us study about heat and temperature. So heat is a form of energy. Earlier, some scientists believed that heat was a kind of fluid. Why? Because when they were observing that things can melt on heating or by raising the temperature, they were considering that some fluid is added to that material. And when things were solidifying after cooling down, they assume that heat is removed, means that fluid is removed from the material. But at the beginning of the 19th century, Count Rumford and James Prescott proved the relationship between mechanical energy and the heat. So what they found, whenever a work is happening, some heat is also produced. How? Heat energy can be converted into any other form of energy, and other forms of energy can also be converted again into heat energy. For example, when you switch on the light, electrical energy is used there, and after some time, if you try to touch the bulb, you will feel that the surface of the bulb is slightly hotter now. Similarly, when you switch on a fan and you run this fan for an hour on electricity, and now you switch off the fan and try to touch the central disc of the fan, you will find that it feels slightly hotter. So what is happening here? Work is happening, one form of energy is changing into heat energy. In winter, when you rub your palm, so what we do to feel, to keep us warm, we rub our hands, and when you rub it for a minute, you can feel that there is a heat generated between your palm. So after rubbing it for a minute, if you touch any other body part of yours, so you will feel that your palm is slightly hotter. So how it becomes hot? When you were rubbing it, heat was generated. During this rubbing, heat was generated, and that's how you try to keep yourself warm during the winters. When we use the saw to cut the wood, what happens then? When we are cutting a piece of wood using a saw, means when you are rubbing, friction is happening, and as a result, heat is produced. So here we can say we are working on this piece of wood using a saw and heat is produced. So here we can conclude that in all these examples, so mechanical energy is converted into heat energy. So in these all actions, what is happening? One kind of energy is changing into another kind of energy And in most of these cases, when we are rubbing the hand or cutting the wood, friction comes in action. As a result, heat energy is produced. When coal, wood, petroleum, kerosene, etc., which are the fossil fuels, these are burned, heat is produced. We know the fact when fuel is burned, chemical energy is changed into heat energy. Fossil fuels are chemical substances. So we can say these chemical substances possess the energy called chemical energy. So whenever these fossil fuels are burned, they are producing light and heat energy. Heat can be converted into other forms of energy as well. For example, in the steam engine, heat is produced after burning the coal. That energy is used to run the engine. So what is happening here? As a machine, engine is a machine, as a machine is working here due to burning of coal or fossil fuel here. So the chemical energy is first changed into heat energy during the burning process. Then this heat energy is converted into mechanical energy when the engine starts working. Candle is a chemical substance. When you light a candle, it produces a flame. Also, it produces heat energy. So, chemical energy. So, hence we can say chemical energy is converted into heat energy and light energy here. In an electric heater, what happens? When you switch on the electric heater, it's the element in the heater start releasing the heat. So what is happening here? Electrical energy is converted into heat energy. So here we can say that heat energy can be converted into different forms of energy, as well as different forms of energy can be converted into heat energy. How do we measure this energy? How do we know that how much energy, how much heat is produced? For that, we need a standard measurement unit. So what is that standard unit? To measure the heat, it is called calorie. The quantity of heat required to increase the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius is called calorie. In grade 6, we already have discussed that the temperature is measured in degrees Celsius. The unit calorie is denoted by cal. This is the short form of denoting this, presenting this. The calorie is the smaller unit. What if we are using the huge amount of energy? Lots of energy is consumed for heating any object. In that case, we will measure the amount of energy using another unit called kilocalorie. So what is kilo? Kilo means 1000 parts. So 1 kilocalorie is equals to 1000 calories. Thus, a kilocalorie is equal to the heat required to increase the temperature of 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree Celsius. So, whenever we are using 1 calorie, it means 1 gram of water is heated to increase its temperature by 1 degree Celsius. When we are using kilocalorie, means 1 kilogram of water is heated to increase its temperature by 1 degree. The SI unit of heat is joule. This is denoted by the letter capital J. 1 calorie is equals to 4.184 joules. So these units will be used and helpful for us when we will do the conversion of small amount of energy into greater amount or the larger amount of energy into smaller units. Thus, to increase the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius, 4.184 joule of heat energy is required, or 1 calorie is required. Quite often, a big unit of heat is called kilojoule. So, whenever heat is produced, it causes some impact on the materials. We can see the effects of increase or decrease of heat in the surroundings. So, we will study the effects of heat here. What are these effects and how we will understand these? When an object is heated, there are many changes that takes place. These can be the expansion, this can be the increase in the temperature. This can be the change of the state also. Let's understand this through the activity. To understand the effect of heat, fill a vessel up to the brim with water. So what we are doing here, we are filling the container, the vessel up to the brim. The point where no more water can be added, and if you add water, the water will start dripping. So it is the last edge. So add some vegetable in it, heat the vessel and observe the changes. What happens? You will observe the following changes. The water becomes warmer. How can you test this? Use a thermometer. Put this in the water. Before starting the heating process, measure the temperature, and after heating, you will notice that the temperature is rising. The mercury is rising in the thermometer. Its temperature increases, thus heat causes an increase in the temperature. This is the first conclusion, first impact of the heat. As the water heats up, some of it overflows. That is, its volume increases. When you are heating the water, its volume is also increasing and it causes water to spill out from the vessel. So we can conclude that heating causes expansion. As the water boils, steams come out from the vessel. So what is the change happening here? That the liquid is changing into water vapor. So change of the state is caused by the heating process. So thus we can say heat causes the change of state. After the water has boiled for a few minutes, the vegetables become soft and their taste changes. So what is happening? Heating is causing a chemical change here. It is causing the change of taste due to formation of new substance in it. So what is happening here? Since the cooking of vegetable is a chemical change, we can say the heating causes chemical change. So what are the impacts of heat we have discussed here? First, the temperature of the substance is increased. First is the temperature. Second is it causes expansion. Third, it causes change of state. And fourth, it causes chemical change. Let's discuss and understand these effects further. What are these applications? You may have seen railway tracks. So, railway tracks are mainly made of iron. During summers, the iron expands. Iron is a metal and metal expands on heating. This we have already discussed in grade 6 that metals absorb heat and they expand. So, what happens during the expansion? The particles of iron absorb heat from the solar energy and they start expanding, which may cause slight increase in the length of railway track or the bars which are used to make the railway track. To allow this expansion, space has to be left between two sections of the rail track. So here you can see there is a joint between two railway tracks. So the space is left there so that during summers, when expansion happens, this space can be occupied by these railway tracks. And what happens during winters? They contract again, the particles comes closer again. In summers, electric cables between two poles expand and sag. What happens? If you have noticed in your surroundings, there are electric poles and these are connected through different electrical wires. So during winters, due to the nature, due to its property, the metal will expand by absorbing the heat from solar energy and they will sag. But in winters, they will again contract and it becomes taut. These will be tight. So if cables are laid in summer, they must be left a little loose to allow the contraction which happens during the winter. So we are understanding that heat is causing different changes. But these changes happen when one object is absorbing heat and it is releasing heat. So for absorbing and releasing, there must be some transport of heat. There must be some transfer of heat. So there are three different ways by which the transfer of heat occurs. What are these ways? Conduction, convection and radiation. We have studied that there are different states of material. What are these states? Solids, liquids and gas. Whenever heat transfer occurs in solid, it is called conduction. And whenever heat transfer occurs in liquid or gaseous state of a material, it is called convection. Let's understand first what is conduction and convection. So, for this, we will discuss some activities here and understand how does this happens. So, conduction happens when two objects at distinctive temperature are in contact with each other. For example, this is object A and this is object B. Object B is cold and object A is hot. This is hot and this is cold. This is a variation in the temperature of these two objects here. So what is happening here? When object A is placed with direct contact with object B, so the heat will be transferred from object A to object B. The direction of the heat transfer will be from object A to object B. So we can say heat transfer takes place from higher temperature to lower temperature. If you place an iron rod in direct contact with the flame or the wooden burning wood, so what happens? The heat is transferred to the solid material, and what will happen if you keep holding this iron rod for more time? The heat will be transferred to the other end and it will be difficult for you to hold the free end of the iron rod. That is why the cooking vessels, which are usually made of metals, are made with the handles covered with wood or any other insulator material or bad conductor of heat, such as plastic. So what is happening here? The heat is transferred from the vessel to the handle due to the conduction process, and to avoid burning of your hand, the handles are usually covered with any material which do not conduct heat, or the material are called bad conductor of heat or insulator of heat. How a material transfer heat or it do not transfer heat? Based on this property, the materials are classified as good conductor of heat or poor conductor of heat. We already have discussed earlier that metals are good conductor of heat and plastic, wood are bad conductor of heat. Means metals allow exchange of heat or the transfer of heat through their particle, but plastic or wood do not allow this transfer of heat through their particle. So metal is a good conductor, plastic and wood are bad conductor of heat. Metals transfer the heat at very fast rate because these are the good conductor of heat. But in wood, the heat is not transferred at that rate because the particles are not transferring the heat in the wood. So we can say wood is a poor conductor of heat. Similarly, glass and air are also poor conductor of heat. So another mode of transfer of heat is convection. We already have discussed that the matter has three states of it: solid, liquid and gas. In solid, materials are closely packed. So what happens when we heat up the solid materials? The particles vibrate and they transfer the heat to the next layer of the particles without moving actually from its place. But in convection process, the particles move, shows actual movement from its position and transfer the heat from one particle to the other particle. So here we can say that convection occurs in fluids. Convection is the mode of heat transfer in which the heat is carried out from one part to another part by the movement of molecules in the medium. This medium can be liquid or gas. So, what is here? What is the difference in conduction and convection? That conduction takes place in solid materials and convection takes place in liquids and gases, which are also known as fluids, means materials which can flow. Convection always takes place in liquid and gases because the atom or particles are loosely packed. That is why when they get energy, they start moving and they move apart at very faster rate. For example, when we heat the water near the bottom of the flask, we place the beaker over the stove and fill it with water. As soon as you start heating up, the bottom layer of particles of water comes in contact with the heat first. They start heating and they start moving from its place. So water at the bottom heats up first. Since warm water is lighter than the cold water, so it starts rising up in the flask and cold water descends. So in this process, a cyclic movement of water molecule starts. This cyclic movement of water molecule is called convection current. This phenomena is helpful in nature to produce wind currents, also to produce water currents in ocean. Convection current in coastal area is very common. During the daytime, the wind blows from sea to land, while during the night time, the wind blows from land to the sea. But the land gets heats up quickly in comparison to sea. Why? Because the particles in the land are in solid state and these are tightly packed to transfer heat to the next layer of the sand. As land is, that makes the land a better conductor of heat. The air above the land also gets heated and rises up. So what is happening here? In this process, what is happening? That there are two different places, land and water. This area is surrounded by water. So what is happening here? Water is a liquid state of material. It has loosely packed particles, so it will transfer the heat at slightly slower rate than the land where the particles are tightly packed in solid state. So when during the day, sun is radiating heat into the atmosphere. And this heat is heating up the air over the land as well as over the water. But the land is heating up faster than the water. So what happens? The air which is in contact with the land in this area absorb the heat from the sand particles and it start rising up. When the air particles have moved from this space, what will happen? There will be low air pressure. This will create a vacuum, or we can say it will be empty. The light particles, more particles can take up this space. So from where we will get these more particles? In this low air pressure area. From the water, from the ocean. So as the water is heating up at slower rate, the air particles over the surface of water is slightly colder, we can say. The air above the land is warmer, it rises up, creating a low air pressure, and the air from higher pressure area over the ocean starts moving towards the land. That's how a channel of air, a flow of air is created here, making the wind to move from water to land or from ocean to land. That's how we say during the day ocean currents or ocean. That's why we say during the day the sea currents or sea wind moves from water to land. But what happens during the night? Is there sun in the night time? No. So there is no more solar radiation in the night time. So what will happen now? Here we have land, and then we have water, ocean. Okay. There is one more feature of materials, that a material which absorb heat at faster rate also releases heat at faster rate. So as the land is good conductor of heat, it will release the heat easily into the atmosphere after sunset. So what will happen? As in this state, the water is comparatively warmer than land. It is warm and the land will be comparatively cold. So now the warmer air above the ocean will start rising up. As a result, there will be low air pressure area or low air pressure zone. Now this low air pressure area will be filled with air from the high pressure area on the land. So the air will start moving from land to water this time. So what we will say, in this case, when air is moving from land to water, the wind will be called land breeze. So it is happening during the night time. So what happens during the daytime? We have sea breeze because land is heating up faster and the wind start moving from ocean to land. So this is called sea breeze. But at the night time, land is comparatively colder than water. So the wind will start moving from land to water, resulting into formation of land breeze. So here we have discussed transfer of heat through solids and liquids and gases. What if in any environment there is no medium, no material in any states of matter? So in this case also heat will be transferred. For example, we know that there is a space, there is a vacuum in the space, and in the universe lot of empty space is there, means no material is present there. The heat energy from the sun reaches us by infrared radiation. When we sit in front of a room heater, we get heat. Are you touching the heater directly to get warm? No. Heater is radiating heat into the air and then it is coming to our body. So a hot utensil kept away from the flame cools down as it transfers heat to the surrounding by radiating. What happens once you cook the food using a vessel and you leave it off the stove for some time? So what happens after some time? That the vessel becomes cold because it already has released heat into the atmosphere. That is called radiation of heat. Means the vessel has radiated heat into the atmosphere, lost heat into the atmosphere and becomes cold. The rate at which an object radiates or absorbs heat by radiation depends on the temperature and nature of the surface. What type of material is used to make that surface? Dull, black and rough surfaces are the best radiators and absorbers of the heat. Any material which absorbs heat at good rate also radiates heat at good rate. Shiny, silvery and smooth surfaces are the poor radiator as well as poor absorber of heat. Means any material which will absorb heat at slow rate also will radiate heat at slow rate. Now understand the activity here to find out how a material can affect the rate of radiation or absorption of the heat. What is temperature? We have studied heat. Heat is the form of energy and we measure it in terms of temperatures. So the measure and the extent of hotness or coldness of an object on a scale is called temperature. It is measured in Kelvin. Kelvin is the SI unit, standard unit of temperature. Temperature is measured using a device called thermometer. Temperature is usually measured in standard units such as degree Fahrenheit, degree Celsius. For measuring the temperature of a body, we are using degree Celsius here. What is Fahrenheit scale? The temperature scale is named after Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit, who founded it in 1724. He set the freezing point of water at 32 degree and the boiling point of water at 212 degree Fahrenheit. He also invented mercury in glass thermometer. Means he invented the thermometer made up of glass where he was using mercury to check the temperature of different materials. What is Celsius scale? Around 1743, Andreas Celsius invented the Celsius scale. He determined that freezing temperature for water to be 0 degrees Celsius and boiling temperature at 100 degrees Celsius at Celsius scale. So what is the difference in Fahrenheit and Celsius scale here? That the temperature of water at which it starts freezing is 0 degrees Celsius at Celsius scale, but 32 degree Fahrenheit at Fahrenheit scale. So in grade 6, we have studied the conversion of these Celsius scales and Fahrenheit scales already. Let's check the clinical thermometer. You must have seen a doctor or your parent using a clinical thermometer to measure your body temperature. So how this is able to tell us the body temperature? It is made up of glass capillary, glass tube. Inside this there is a thin tube called capillary which is filled with mercury. The mercury is a metal present in the liquid state. It is the only liquid metal. And metals has the property of transfer of heat. Also they expand on absorbing the heat. So when the thermometer is placed in contact with your body, it absorbs heat. Means the mercury present in the thermometer absorb heat from the body and start expanding in the capillary. That gives you the rise of the mercury in the capillary, and that's how you can read the temperature of any body. As glass is a poor conductor of heat, the walls of the bulb is kept thin so that the transfer of heat energy occurs quickly between the surrounding and the mercury. If we are using the thick layer of glass to make this thermometer, it will not help us to absorb the heat from any body and it will not give us any reading. So what we are doing? We are using a thin glass here. The scale in a clinical thermometer ranges between 35 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. Most thermometers are marked to indicate a small change as 0.2 degrees Celsius. There is a construction or the narrow passage called the kink in the tube near the bulb. So this is the bulb which is filled with mercury, and here we can see a narrow kink. It is a narrow passage, thin passage from where mercury will rise into the capillary. This is called kink. It is very important to have kink in the clinical thermometer. Why? Whenever you are measuring the temperature from a body, it is in direct contact with the body and absorbing the heat. This heat is expanding the mercury in the thermometer. As soon as you remove the thermometer from the body, the mercury will start contracting. To avoid that contraction, to avoid that quick fall, there is a kink in the clinical thermometer so that we can read the correct reading of the temperature of a body. How is a clinical thermometer used? Before using it, always clean it and wipe it with any antiseptic solution or clean water. Give it a firm jerk so that if the mercury is high in the capillary, above the kink in the capillary, it will fall when you jerk it. It will come back into the bulb. Place the thermometer below the tongue for about a minute. In case of a child, you can place it under the armpits, as the mercury is harmful. If it is consumed, it can be poisonous. So it is not placed in the mouth of small kids because they can bite it and they can break the capillary, and in that case they can consume mercury and also the bits of glass. Read the thermometer by holding it horizontally in the line of sight. So when I am supposed to read the temperature, I need to place it in front of my eyes, aligned with the line of sight, so that I read the accurate temperature. The normal body temperature is marked as 37 degrees Celsius on a clinical thermometer. So where is 37 degrees Celsius? Here you can see there is a red marking. It is normal body temperature. If the body temperature is rising in the capillary above the 37 degrees Celsius, then we will say the person has fever. How can you convert the degree Celsius into Fahrenheit or Fahrenheit into degrees Celsius? To change Celsius temperature into Fahrenheit, we need to multiply it with 9 by 5 and add 32 to the reading of temperature in Celsius scale. If we are changing it from Fahrenheit to Celsius scale, then we will subtract 32 from the temperature at Fahrenheit scale, and then we will multiply it with 5 by 9. That's how we can change it from one scale to another scale. What is digital thermometer? It is not using mercury to read the temperature of any body. Nowadays, digital thermometers are also used to measure body temperature. They operate a tiny dry cell. They are using a tiny dry cell. There is a circuit and sensor to find the temperature. A good quality digital thermometer records body temperature more accurately and quickly than an ordinary mercury in glass thermometer. It gives you more accurate reading and quicker reading. A laboratory thermometer is a tool used in laboratories to measure temperature with high accuracy. The laboratory thermometer is also made up of glass tube. It can have mercury or it can have alcohol to check the temperature of different objects. There are two fixed points that shows the lowest and the highest temperature that can be measured on using a laboratory thermometer. What is that reading? From minus 10 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. So it can be used to measure the temperature as low as minus 10 degrees Celsius or the higher temperature as 110 degrees Celsius. How to read a laboratory thermometer? When we are using glass laboratory thermometer, we are keeping it vertical, we are keeping it erect in the medium, in the material for which we are using to measure the temperature, and then we need to bring the eye to the level of the mercury in the thermometer to read this. So here the difference is the thermometer should be in contact with the material to read its temperature, and when we are reading the temperature, we need to bring the eye at the level of mercury in the thermometer. A laboratory thermometer does not contain a construction, means the king. So if you remove it from the material, the mercury will fall quickly in the bulb. You are required to read the temperature while it is in contact with the material whose temperature is being measured. For example, to record the temperature of warm water, the temperature has to be read while the thermometer is immersed in the water. It should not be removed from the water. So in this chapter, we have studied the hotness and coldness of any object is measured as temperature, and it is measured at different scales. These scales are Fahrenheit scales, Celsius scales and Kelvin scales. And we have studied that the temperature of the materials can vary, and this variation of the temperature can result into the transfer of heat. The transfer of heat happens through different modes in different materials. For example, in solids, the transfer of heat takes place through conduction, but in liquids and gases, the transfer of heat takes place through convection. Heat transfer can take place without a medium also, like in the vacuums. It happens through the process of radiation. That's how we can get the solar radiation. We can absorb the heat of sun. We can use different type of thermometers to measure the temperature of different objects. For measuring the temperature of living bodies, we use clinical thermometer, which can be made up of glass using the mercury in it, or it can be a digital thermometer. Digital thermometers are more common nowadays, and this gives us more accurate readings also. We can use another type of thermometer called a laboratory thermometer for measuring the temperature of non-living things, such as the temperature of water or any other solution during the experiments in laboratories. Thank you.